forget, you can hear the full-length, longer version wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome. You're probably not in this shot, Jessica. You can relax. We're probably
There's
still...
one on me, though.
Yes, but at this point, we'll be on this as I give the introduction.
Okay.
I noticed you putting your coffee back tentatively, and there was no need for the tentativeness.
All right, I'll thrash it down next time.
Jessica Knappett joins me here in the...
Sorry, go on.
Have respect, though. You're talking to a 59-year-old man who's been around a bit. Don't just... Is that what you want?
This is good stuff. Yes, I absolutely do.
What do they call that? ASMR? AMSR? Is that to get people off to sleep?
Yeah, have you get people off, ...
Oh,
to sleep.
Is it that as well?
I've heard. I don't listen to it.
And it can be something like this, can't it?
Yeah, brush your hair and this.
Can people like that, do they?
Yeah, well, some people. A friend of mine didn't understand what ASMR was. Put an ASMR video on, and then woke up head first on her kitchen counter. 20 minutes later.
Really?
It sends people into strange places. It gives people tingles, and they love it. And there's a slightly saucy. Thank you. Good, great. Fruity.
Horny.
Randy.
Sexy.
Sexual, fetishistic quality to it for some people.
And it sounds very interesting. Very interesting. But we're not here to talk about that. We've been talking already about several things. Let's first of all say, Jessica Knappett, for it is she, that you have, and I think that's essentially why you're here, to talk about Perfect Day with Jessica Knappett. Because, in my opinion, there aren't enough podcasts. Do you ever feel, when I started doing this, I felt slightly embarrassed.
Yeah, it is embarrassing.
Everybody's got one.
It's not as bad for me because I'm a woman. It's worse for the lads, isn't it? Let's face it. It is worse for the lads because there's loads of them.
How refreshing to hear somebody say it's worse for the lads.
I have every compassion for
because
the older
you're no
white man.
Nonsense Yorkshire.
Aye.
You are, aren't you?
Yeah.
And when you weren't saying I as in I am, you were saying I, the sort of thing Yorkshire people say.
Yeah.
To express agreement.
That's quite right. Thank you for the translation.
You might have said appen.
I might have said ruddy to rate. You're an accent expert. There are many different variations of the Yorkshire accent.
Give us some then, please.
Oh, no.
Come on.
No, I've walked into it there, haven't I?
Yeah.
But, well, for instance, mine's a kind of... I think I'm sort of on the posher end of Yorkshire, aren't I?
Are you Leeds?
I am Bradford.
I like a posh Yorkshire.
Do you?
I always have.
Who else do you consider to be a posh Yorkshire? Because there are bad posh Yorkshires when people really pretend that they're not.
I've known some. I'm talking women now, not men. A posh Yorkshire man, I've no interest in. But
James Martin, he's a posh Yorkshire man.
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
he will say
he does nothing for me.
You won't catch James Martin talking about butter. You'll catch James Martin talking about butter. Do you know? Can you hear the difference?
No, I couldn't.
What?
No, let's do it again.
Butter.
Yeah, butter.
Butter.
Butter. Do they say it like that? Butter.
When you're trying hard not... No offence, James Martin.
Oh, I can give him some.
But when you're trying hard to disguise your Yorkshire accent, you will pay particular attention to your... is it hard vowels? I think it's hard vowels, isn't it? That's the term. Bath. You'll correct to Bath.
Whereas as someone who wasn't thinking about it from Yorkshire would say Bath.
Oh, aye.
My favourite in that region is Alan Bennett. Now,
Alan Bennett.
Is he a little bit before your time? Or is he someone that you can still appreciate?
I love. I mean, I can't do it as well as you can, but there's a book that I like to read my children in the voice of Alan Bennett. It's called I Am a Bunny.
Said Jessica,
Yours
sitting
is-
across from Rob Brydon on his podcast. It was a Thursday, and she'd been staying with a friend in Chelsea. Posh folks' place, as Mum would have said. But for Jessica, it meant she could avoid the commute from Yorkshire, which, of course, is where I grew up. And I'm Alan Bennett.
It's absolutely perfect.
It's one of my better ones, because they're not all good. Some of them are pretty shoddy, I must admit. Perfect Day with Jessica Knappett. Romesh Ranganathan, Dolly Alderton, Adam Buxton, and Jessica Gunning. That must have been confusing to have another Jessica
It
on there.
was. We didn't know which way to turn.
Whether you're coming or going. Tell us about the podcast, Jessica.
Thank you for allowing this plug up front. It's about, I interview funny people about what would constitute their perfect morning, afternoon and night.
So you've come up with a format, haven't you?
I've come up with that format all by my good self, actually.
Wow.
What I wanted to do, I was interested in, and still am interested in, people's creative routines. The question of, really, how do you come up with this stuff? Which is actually very difficult to answer for most people. And what I realised was actually it's quite dry if you've just got a whole podcast about that. But if you ask people about their fantasy day, then they will reveal along the way a little bit about their normal routines. And you do, because people say, oh, well, I'd have a lie-in because normally I have to get up and do this thing, and go to my gym in the garden at 5 a.m. or whatever. Just sort of relatable things like that.
How many have you done so far?
13.
Okay, and do you see any common things? There's, that guy, Tim Ferriss, he does podcasts where he interviews, and he did a thing. There's a book, it's a terrible title, it's called Tools for Titans, right, which is crazy. But he's basically talking to leaders in all sorts of areas, show business, science, medicine, sport. And he looks at, well, what have they got in common? So you'll find a degree of mindfulness, sauna-y stuff, different...
Sauna-y stuff?
Sauna stuff, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hot and cold stuff. Have you
Wim
come
Hof.
across yet any... Wim Hof. You said Wim Hof in an ASMR way, didn't you?
And I should have said Wim Hof.
Wim Hof. Wim Hof. So now what we're going to do now, we're going to give you something that you can take it out of this podcast, and we're each going to say Wim Hof in different ways, and you may find this pleasing. Wim Hof. Wim Hof. Wim Hof.
That'll do it. That'll really do it for some people, I think. They'll be fast asleep now.
Or... So perfect days. You've done a few already. What would your perfect day be, Jessica?
Oh, God. Well, I don't...
Because I could tell you mine.
Well, why don't you tell me tell me mine? You tell me mine.
I think you like to get up at around 7 to 7:30. I think you will immediately meditate. And then I think you'll cold plunge.
You've got one of the three, right? Which one is it?
Get up at 7:30.
No.
You meditate.
I am a big meditator.
Oh, let's talk about this.
Let's get into it.
What sort of meditation?
Well, I meditate with an app called Insight Timer, and there's a meditation teacher on that called David G.
Yes.
And he is fantastic.
So you have headphones on.
I have headphones on and I do guided meditations, and there's lots of different versions of guided meditations that you can do. And one of the ones that I really love doing is a little bit mantra-y.
Yeah.
And there's and you're just sort of going through your body, opening up all your chakras, aren't you?
That's right. How long does that take?
It can be anything from 10 minutes to an hour.
And how do you feel the other side of it?
Fantastic. I feel like my day goes really well if I've meditated in the morning. I just think things run a bit more smoothly. I feel happier in myself. I'm calmer. I can get my work done. I really know when I haven't
Slightly
done
a
it.
muscle memory as well, isn't it? Because later in the day, you're able to recall that feeling of centeredness and calm.
Look at us all. when did you start doing this? Could you imagined that you'd be on a podcast talking about meditation? We were all anti-therapy. I mean, I just think we've really woken up, haven't we, as a nation?
Or we're falling apart.
Or we're falling apart, yeah. Do you,
were you about to say in all seriousness?
Yeah, it was, yeah, sorry about that.
No, for we welcome that phrase.
What?
I said, I think you know what I said, we welcome that phrase or expression.
I do feel like a lot of people, almost all the people that I know, are on the brink of some kind of mental health crisis.
Wow. Let's just check that. All the people I know are on the brink of some kind of mental health crisis. All the people you know.
And I wonder if it's my age.
How old are you?
40.
Well.
Midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Everyone's got kids. The women I know are drowning in responsibility.
Drowning in responsibility. I heard a mother not long ago who described having children as either they've ruined me or they've broken me or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was very funny.
Yeah, it's but
that age where you are, I'm 20 years ahead of you.
What's that like?
Well, I think that's more. There's a lot of thoughts of mortality, basically.
Really?
Yeah, but that doesn't have to be in a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing.
Because there's no choice. I mean, 'twas ever thus, and you can savour things even more, can you not?
I recently experienced death, an ego death. I went on a psilocybin retreat in Amsterdam.
Sweet Lord.
And and a lot of people have a similar experience. You kind of...
Hang on, there'll be people who don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. So there's a lot of research now to suggest that you can really improve your mental health and stimulate your creativity by safely taking psychedelics in a therapeutic environment. How do you feel about it? Do you think this is a bit not your podcast?
Oh, no, I'm very interested in it. Very interested. But please continue.
Anyway, you go in, you drink the tea, and you put an eye mask on and you lie back, and then you get essentially messages, I suppose, from your inner psyche for 4 hours.
Right, go on. So what?
And one of the things I experienced was sort of going into a kind of nothingness and non-existence, which I guess then in hindsight I was like, I've essentially have just experienced death, and it felt like safe and okay and fine, because I mean, it just sounds absolutely mad, but you do sort of experience yourself coming out of your body and the vast expanse of the universe, essentially, and the meaninglessness of it and the chaos of it, but also the beauty of it. But just how you're this tiny dot in the middle of it. And then, well, not in the centre of it, but just a tiny dot. And then it kind of goes out, it's gone. And then it comes back and you're still there, and it's fine. It's like there was a sort of sense of ease.
Has that stayed with you?
Oh no, God no! I've very much got to go back into therapy now after all that. That
was one of the experiences.
Because that was just a minute of the 4 hours.
So what other ones?
Well, I did have I mostly had a lovely time, but I was confronted by all of my fears, essentially. It's really hard to explain because it's so abstract, but I was confronted by this notion that I like to keep everything very buoyant and happy and joyful, but it hit me that at a certain point you are just suppressing, any kind of negative thoughts,
right?
Sadness, disappointment.
Yeah.
And you can't.
So you gained a realization that's what you do.
That in order to exist fully and presently in the world, you have to embrace the good and the bad.
So since that experience, have you altered your behaviour?
Well, I've been looking into getting a therapist.
Right.
I mean, I think what I realised is, and this is just not
She's
really
just
a comedy.
crossed her arms. She's crossed her arms. Body language, people. She has crossed her arms. Knappett is crossing. She's now opened her arms. Her legs are crossed. Her legs are crossed.
I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I think that I realised that I'm an anxious person and I've been doing lots of very good things like meditation, etc., to keep a lid on it. And I do keep a lid on it quite well, but it's really just kind of managing it all the time.
Maybe another way would be to let the river flow.
Wouldn't it?
Let it flow.
Let it flow and take a look at the river. But be honest.
No.
How do you really feel about that? Do you think it's
well, like
nonsense?
I just said, I'm really interested in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is my honest response.
Because
but I'm quite scared
would you
of
do it?
drugs.
Yeah.
I am curious, but I'm very risk averse with anything drug like.
I'm not a druggie, by the way.
No, of course I'm not. No. I'm not
No, I've
suggesting
never
that you
been.
are.
I've never been.
No, but I'm very interested in that. And where did you do this, and what prompted you to do this then?
I saw a documentary on Netflix called, it was Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind.
Right, yes.
And at each episode he goes through a different experimental drug and patients take this drug in a therapeutic environment. MDMA for PTSD, for instance.
Yeah.
And all of these stories were so amazing, and I just thought, wouldn't that be a nice way to experience something like that, which has always terrified me and intrigued me, but to experience something in a safe environment, because it's always just terrified me, the idea of psychedelics. But then I read a lot about, I think I like the 60s and 70s, and I like the music and I like the art.
Always
and I
liked
think
caftans, so I thought I'd give it a go.
And then I think that unfortunately what happened is it all was dissolved. I think that we had this amazing artistic movement in the 60s and 70s, and it was as a massive result of the ingestion of psychedelics. And then
a lot of casualties as well, though.
Not as many as you would think.
Is that true?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, that it was obviously made illegal, and I think that yes, some people who are prone to psychosis who take these things don't necessarily get better, but no, crimes are not committed on magic mushrooms. People don't become more violent.
I saw my friend Steve Coogan's name, Alpha Papa, the film.
Oh, yeah.
And you're a caller on a Mid-Morning Matters. Who are you? What did you do in Alpha Papa?
I was a police officer who walked in and read a transcript about Banged Up Abroad. I say Banged Up Abroad a lot in that film.
Right, okay. It's
and
very funny.
It was a great scene. It was a very, very funny film. It was really,
the bit where he comes into the office and he takes the gloves off and slaps the gloves.
It's an absolute sensation.
Very, very funny. But a difficult man, though. A difficult man. How did you find him?
I didn't find him difficult because we didn't really have much interaction.
Yes,
I just thought
it's best.
I witnessed his comic genius, and that's all I can say about it. And
I'm still waiting.
You're so great together, aren't you?
We're a very happy couple.
Yeah.
She was co-founder of Lady Garden, a sketch comedy group formed in Manchester in 2005. Any other notables in that?
Well...
Careful how you answer this. No.
Yeah, I mean, three of them are still going as a sketch group called Birthday Girls. Right. Rose Johnson, BT Edmondson, Camille Uchan.
Oh, BT?
Yeah, you know BT.
Well, I've met her, yes.
And one of us has become a teacher. She's the happiest one. And
quite possibly, yes. Quite possibly.
And the other one's my good pal, Eleanor Tom, who is a writer.
You say she's the happiest one. You were saying it for comic effect, but discuss.
It's good, isn't it? It's good to get out as well, isn't it?
Well, when people say it's good to get out, I think they mean to go for a walk, to get amongst nature.
To get out of this godforsaken industry.
No, come on. It's fantastic.
But I do understand why why she did it. It was a very tricky thing with us because there's 6 people in a sketch group. What are you going to do with that? I mean, we couldn't,
That's a big financial split.
Yeah. It was a big financial, when, I do remember doing a gig and being handed a £10 note.
Yeah.
It was, it had its challenges. And then we sort of thought, well, the best thing that can happen is that we get a TV series. And even that's not going to keep you warm.
No, not if there's that many of you.
Yeah.
You're doing that as a group.
Yes. Oh, you wanted to know how long after?
Yeah, but so you're doing that, but then when do you then become?
Inbetweeners, I think, is the answer to the question.
What did you do in the Inbetweeners?
I was in the Inbetweeners movie as one of the girls of the guys. One of the main guys, Neil.
Yeah.
I was his holiday romance. And he dry humped me on a boat, and I dry humped him back at the end. And that's probably still what I'm most known for.
Is that right? Seriously?
Yeah. It was a big hit.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, having then done 4 years of my own sitcom off the back of that.
You're furious.
Absolutely livid. But it is amazing that people, it's just, people watch it over and over again.
Yeah, it's one of those shows. It's one of those things that people love, that really connected with people, and there's nothing you can do about that.
But it was great fun, and I do wish there were more British. I would love to do more British comedy movies. Like, I just think there's we're so good at it, but we're just not making as many comedy movies anymore. And it's a shame.
Tell me about Taskmaster.
Yes.
I love watching Taskmaster, but I've never wanted to actually go on it and
Why
be
not?
in it. It just doesn't appeal to me. That experience, I don't know.
Because you have to be. You're exposed. Do you think it's
yes.
exposing?
You don't have much control. You are.
But it really is designed to make you. They don't want to humiliate you. Compared with a lot of shows. I think where they really do genuinely take care of you, and I think the joke is so much in the juxtaposition with how people respond to the same thing. It's not really.
I'd also be very bad at the tasks, because when I watch it, I just go, I don't even know where I'd begin.
You'd be so good on it.
No. How did you do in it, and how much did you enjoy it?
Well, I loved it so much to the point where I wish so much that I'd won. I lost by 1 point.
To who?
During a task called Sausage or Finger. And I had to, James Acaster was placing either a sausage or a finger on my bare shoulder, and I mistook his finger for a sausage. I never lived it down.
Did he win?
No, Kerry Godliman won.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just had the best experience of my life, truly, and it was like a grief afterwards, because I just thought, I don't know how I'm ever going to get that feeling back, and there's nothing I can do to. I can't make. It's not like doing a sitcom and then being like, well, I'll just be in another sitcom then, and I'll have that feeling again. You can't ever get it back. It was extraordinary. To me, it felt like it was my birthday every day, and people were giving me this sort of like elaborate treasure hunt style gift.
Yeah.
I loved it so much, and my main thing was just, I'm going to go on there and just, when I'm given a task, I'm just going to do the first thing that pops into my head, because if I start overthinking things, then that's when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
I did fall off the stage during a live task. And
that's not nice.
So they had to stop. They had to pause filming. It was quite a serious moment. But they captured it, of course, and put it out on national television. So the disappointing thing about it is that you spend your whole life trying to be funny on purpose, and then the funniest thing you do is accidentally falling off stage. That was the disappointing thing about it. But second to being dry humped on a boat, that's the other thing that people recognise me for.
For us to end, and we have to end because
you've got to go.
Well, we've got AstroTurf being put down the bottom part of the garden, and I want to supervise it.
It's just trashy.
It's not trashy. It's not the whole garden. It's the bottom section.
What's wrong with grass?
Because it doesn't get the sun down there.
Well, I'll
so
tell
it's
you
just
something.
mud.
Grass is better for your gut microbiome.
Well, if I were to be thinking of eating the astroturf.
No, incorrect.
Why? What's that got to do?
Oh, you look it up, mate. Look it up.
And what will I find?
It's just really good for you to be around nature.
I am around nature.
Oh, okay. It's just that you're paving it with plastic.
A small...
Will you... Can I ask you a question? Will you hoover your astroturf when it gets dirty?
No, I think I've thought about this because there are lots of trees down there. And I've realised that I already have a metal rake, but I think that'll be a bit harsh. I'm going to get a plastic rake.
You love plastic, don't you?
Yeah, because it's around forever. I'm going to get a plastic, and when I tire of it, I'm going to throw it in the sea, where it can.
Thought so.
Where it can degrade over millions of years. It never will it?
And then the turtles. No,
it never will.
I was thinking that. I was playing with my child down by the stream the other day.
I like to think you're a responsible parent. How old is this child?
2. We were chucking. We were lobbing stones into the stream.
Yes.
And then you can find these little bits of pottery every now and again, and you can collect the sea glass and the pottery. And I was thinking, by the time you're my age, that's all. How did the pottery end up here? By the time you're my age, it's just going to be plastic, isn't it?
Jessica Knappett investigates the plastic problem. Channel 4, 8 o'clock on Friday.
The problem is it's your generation undermining the environmental problem, isn't it?
What, mine? Me? Oh, yeah. Ministers have pinpointed Rob Brydon and his humorous comments on plastic. I like saying plastic.
Plastic.
You meet some posh people who would pronounce it like that. Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
Oh, sorry. Am I boring you?
It's my fault for going off on the plastic tangent. I regret it, and I'd like to row back to a lighter subject.
I don't want to row back. I want to go with a diesel-powered outboard motor that is spewing fumes and oil into the ocean.
Oh dear.
Not really.
He's done it again.
I'm only saying I have to get back because we're having some astroturf laid down, but not very much, and the whole percentage of the garden is a small amount.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. We'll forgive it.
Do you feel that this podcast is petering out?
I do, and I'll be honest, I don't know how to end it, but that's not my responsibility, that's yours.